James stood at the edge of the landing platform, staring at the vast palace that stretched before him. The sun of Zarethia hung low in the sky, painting the crystal towers with shades of gold and purple. He had never seen anything like this. The palace shimmered as if it were alive, with walls that reflected light in strange patterns. James had traveled across the galaxy to care for an alien queen, but he could not shake the feeling that this was far more than a simple job. The shuttle doors hissed as they opened, and a soft voice called, "Welcome, James." James turned to see a tall figure approaching. She was not the queen, but one of her attendants. Her skin had a slight glow, and her eyes were large and bright, reflecting the colors of the palace. She introduced herself as Myra. "You will stay here and learn the rules," Myra said. "The queen is not like humans. She has needs that must be respected, and she notices everything." James nodded, unsure what to say. He had expected a grand palace, but he had not expected it to feel almost alive. Every step he took echoed in the high halls, and strange statues of alien creatures lined the walls. Some looked like animals he had never seen. Others appeared to be humanoid but with wings, tails, or extra arms. The palace was beautiful, but it made him feel small. Myra led him through the halls to a room near the center of the palace. It was his living quarters. The furniture was simple but elegant. The bed was soft, the walls glimmered faintly, and a large window gave a clear view of the palace gardens below. Alien flowers glowed in soft colors, and fountains of shimmering water flowed in patterns he could not understand. "You will learn her schedule," Myra explained. "Breakfast, grooming, studies, walks, and her evenings. You will assist in each activity. You will observe. You will obey." James swallowed hard. The job sounded simple in the contract, but Myra's tone made it clear this would be far more demanding. Hours later, he was called to the throne room. The doors opened automatically, and he stepped into a hall larger than any cathedral he had seen on Earth. At the center, on a raised platform, sat the alien queen, Serena. She was taller than any human, her posture perfect and her movements graceful. Her skin was pale with a soft shimmer, and her hair flowed like liquid silver. Her eyes were deep green, and when she looked at James, he felt as though she could see every thought in his mind. James bowed, unsure how else to show respect. "Do not be afraid," Serena said in a voice that was calm and melodic. "You are here to assist, not to serve as a servant. But you must understand, your actions will be noticed. Every gesture, every word, every glance." James nodded again. He felt nervous but also curious. There was something about the queen that made him want to do his best. Myra whispered, "Do not speak unless she asks you. Observe first. Learn her ways." For the rest of the day, James followed Myra around the palace. He learned the rules: no sudden movements, no loud voices, always wait for permission before touching anything. The palace staff moved silently, like shadows, and the queen's presence was always felt, even when she was not in the room. In the evening, James helped prepare the queen's meals. The food was strange but beautiful, glowing slightly and arranged in perfect patterns. Serena ate slowly, savoring each bite. Occasionally, she would glance at James, as if studying him, and James felt both nervous and fascinated. He did not understand why she looked at him that way. Later, he assisted her with a short walk in the palace gardens. The air was filled with the scent of alien flowers, and soft lights floated above the path. Serena moved gracefully, her long fingers brushing against the glowing petals. James followed carefully, keeping a distance but trying to learn how she walked, how she held herself, how she moved through the world. "You observe well," she said suddenly. James jumped slightly, not realizing she had spoken. "But observation alone is not enough. You must understand. You must feel. You must see what others do not see." James did not answer. He only nodded, trying to understand her words. What did she mean by feel? By see what others do not see? That night, James lay in his bed, staring at the glowing walls. He felt both excited and afraid. He had left Earth for adventure, for work that no human had ever done before. He had expected challenges, but he had not expected this. The Queen was not just a ruler, she was something more, something he did not yet understand. Sleep did not come easily. James's mind replayed the day over and over. He remembered the way Serena's eyes followed him, the way she moved, the subtle power in her voice. He realized that being her caretaker would demand more than skill. It would demand attention, patience, courage, and perhaps even understanding feelings he had never explored before. Before falling asleep, James made a quiet promise to himself. He would do his best to care for the Queen. He would learn her ways. He would observe and obey, and maybe, in time, he would understand the secrets that everyone in the palace seemed afraid to speak. Outside, the palace shimmered under the light of 2 moons. The fountains reflected the stars, and the soft hum of alien life filled the air. James knew this was only the beginning. The adventure he had dreamed of was real, but it was more complex and more dangerous than he could have imagined. The next morning would bring new lessons, new tasks, and new discoveries. But for now, James closed his eyes, ready to face whatever the Queen and her palace would demand of him. The next morning, James woke to the soft glow of Zarithia's twin suns streaming through the crystal window of his room. Birds with feathers that shimmered like tiny prisms sang in the gardens below. James quickly dressed, his mind buzzing with anticipation. Today, he would spend more time with Queen Serena, learning her routines and helping her with her daily tasks. Myra appeared at the door, her presence calm and precise. "The Queen is ready," she said. "Follow me, and remember to observe carefully." James nodded, trying to appear confident. The hall seemed even larger in the morning light, and the crystal walls reflected the sunlight in dazzling patterns. He felt both amazed and slightly overwhelmed by the palace. Every corner held something new, fountains that moved as if alive, flowers that pulsed with gentle light, and statues that seemed to shift subtly when he looked away. When they entered the throne room, Serena was already there, seated with perfect poise. Her silver hair caught the light, and her green eyes sparkled with curiosity. She looked at James directly. "Good morning, James," she said, her voice soft but commanding. "Are you ready to begin your lessons?" James bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty," he replied. He could feel the weight of her gaze, as if she were studying him in ways he could not fully understand. Serena stood and began to walk through the room, her movements graceful and fluid. "You must learn the palace as I do," she said. "Not only the rooms and the gardens but also the people and the customs. Everything here has meaning, and every action matters." James followed closely, careful not to stumble or make any sudden movements. He realized that observing the Queen was more than watching her. He had to notice the smallest details, the way her fingers brushed a leaf, the slight tilt of her head when she listened, the way her eyes softened when she spoke kindly to a servant. After a short walk, Serena paused at a table filled with strange devices and glowing instruments. "These are for learning and measurement," she explained. Your task is to assist me and understand how they work. You must also tell me what you think, though carefully. Do not speak without reason. James approached the table, examining the devices. They were unlike anything he had seen. Some emitted soft lights, others created holographic images of planets and stars. He tried to understand how they worked, but the technology was far beyond human science. Yet, he felt a thrill. This was a chance to learn, to grow, to be part of something extraordinary. Throughout the morning, James helped Serena with various tasks. He carried her instruments, adjusted the holographic displays, and carefully followed her instructions. Serena observed him closely, occasionally asking questions about Earth or human life. "Why do humans enjoy music?" she asked at one point, tilting her head. James paused, considering his answer. "Music is a way to express feelings and share experiences," he said. "It can bring joy, comfort, or even help people remember moments in their lives." Serena's eyes widened slightly. "I see. And humans share this with others?" "Yes," James replied. "It can create connections between people, even if they are far apart." The Queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "You understand more than most humans. That may be why you were chosen." James felt a mix of pride and nervousness. Being chosen for this task was an honor, but it also meant responsibility. Every action he took would be noticed, and any mistake could have consequences. After the lessons, Serena led James to the palace gardens. The air was filled with scents he could not identify, and the colors of the flowers were brighter than anything on earth. Soft streams of water flowed over crystal rocks, creating musical sounds that seemed to harmonize with the gentle wind. "You will walk with me here often," Serena said. "The gardens teach patience, observation, and care. Every plant and creature has its purpose. You must learn to see and understand." James followed, trying to absorb everything. A small creature with wings like glass hovered nearby, watching him curiously. He held out a hand slowly, and the creature landed lightly on his finger. Its warmth and delicate movements made James smile. Serena watched, a small expression of amusement crossing her face. "Humans have many small joys," she said. "Yet they are often overlooked. You notice things, James. That is rare." James felt encouraged. He realized that the Queen's interest in him was not only professional. She seemed genuinely curious about his reactions, his feelings, and his ways of thinking. It made him both nervous and intrigued. As the sun began to lower, Serena returned to the palace. She walked beside James, her steps measured and calm. "Tomorrow, you will assist me in a more personal task," she said. "It is something few have witnessed. It will test your patience and understanding." James nodded. "I will do my best, Your Majesty." "You must," Serena replied. Her eyes softened slightly, a rare gesture of trust. "Your best may become more important than you realize." When James returned to his quarters that evening, he felt exhausted but exhilarated. The palace, the Queen, and the life he had entered were unlike anything he had imagined. Each task, each observation, and each interaction with Serena taught him something new. He sat by the window, watching the twin moons rise over the crystal towers. The palace gardens glowed faintly in the moonlight, and the soft hum of alien life filled the air. James understood that he was beginning a journey that would challenge him in ways he could not yet see. Before he slept, he reflected on Serena's words about observation and understanding. He realized that this job would demand more than following instructions. It would demand empathy, patience, and perhaps even the courage to understand feelings that were new to him. James lay back on his bed, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of adventure. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, new discoveries, and perhaps the first signs of the Queen's secret desires. For now, he closed his eyes, ready to continue the path he had chosen and eager to see where it would lead. James woke early the next morning, his thoughts still full of the Queen's words from the day before. She had promised to show him something personal, something that would test his patience and understanding. He felt nervous but determined to face whatever was coming. The palace outside his window glowed in the light of Zarithia's rising suns, and the sound of birds with crystal-like feathers filled the air. Myra arrived to escort him once again. Her expression was calm as always, but James thought he saw a trace of hesitation in her eyes. "The Queen will ask things of you today," she said. "You must listen carefully and do exactly as she wishes. Do not question her. Do not refuse." James frowned slightly. "What kind of things?" Myra's gaze drifted to the side. "Things that only she can explain. You will see soon enough." Her words made James uneasy, but he nodded. Whatever it was, he would face it. When they entered the Queen's chambers, Serena was seated near a tall window, the twin suns casting light across her silver hair. She turned her head slowly to meet James's gaze, her green eyes calm but full of thought. "James," she said, "today you will not follow the tasks of routine. Today you will follow me as I reveal to you parts of myself that no one else has seen." James bowed slightly. "I am ready, Your Majesty." Serena stood and began walking, her gown flowing behind her. James followed as she led him through long hallways that twisted deeper into the palace. They passed doors he had never seen before, and guards stood silently at every corner, their eyes fixed ahead as if they could not even acknowledge his presence. Finally, Serena stopped in a small chamber filled with glowing orbs. Each orb floated in the air, shining softly in different colors. Some flickered like flames, others swirled like tiny galaxies. The sight left James speechless. "These are memories," Serena explained. "Each orb holds a moment of my life. They are precious, and few are allowed to see them. Today, I allow you to walk among them." James stepped closer, his breath caught in his throat. One orb displayed an image of a vast battlefield where alien soldiers stood in endless rows. Another showed a younger version of Serena standing before her people. Others showed peaceful gardens, festivals, and even storms on alien worlds. "They are beautiful," James whispered. Serena studied him carefully. "Most would ask about power or secrets. You look only at their beauty. That is why I chose you." James turned to her, surprised. "You chose me?" "Yes," Serena said simply. "Your file was given to me among others. I saw your history, your losses, your strengths. I saw the way you notice things others do not. That is why you are here." Her words sent a strange warmth through James. He felt both honored and humbled. Yet he also felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Serena led him further into the chamber. "Tell me a story of your world," she said. "Not of war or duty. Tell me something small, something ordinary." James thought for a moment. Finally, he began to speak. "On Earth, I lived near a field. In spring, the grass would grow tall, and flowers would appear in all colors. Children would run through the fields, chasing insects, or lying in the grass to watch the clouds. It was simple, but it made people happy." Serena listened in silence. When he finished, She closed her eyes as if imagining it. Happiness, she murmured. Your people created from such small things. For us, happiness is duty fulfilled, order maintained. But your kind finds joy in play, in music, in flowers. I wish to understand it. James nodded slowly. Maybe that is why you asked for me. Serena's eyes softened. Yes. You may not realize it, James, but you bring something rare to this palace. Something I cannot command from my attendants. The rest of the day continued in strange ways. Serena asked James to sit with her in silence for long periods, simply watching the shifting colors of the memory orbs. She asked him to describe human customs, how families shared meals, how friends laughed together, how people celebrated when they achieved something small. At times, James felt awkward, unsure if he was saying the right thing. Yet Serena never scolded him. Instead, she listened with a kind of fascination, as though each word gave her a glimpse into a world she had never known. By evening, James was exhausted, though he had done no physical work. It was his mind and heart that felt heavy. Serena had pulled so many stories from him, stories of Earth, stories of his past, stories of the smallest moments he had never thought mattered. As they returned to the throne room, Serena paused and turned to him. You wonder why I ask these things, she said. James hesitated but nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. I do not understand why these stories are important to you. Her expression grew thoughtful. Because, James, power is not enough. Knowledge is not enough. I rule a kingdom, yet there are feelings I cannot touch. I wish to know them. I wish to feel them. You will help me. James lowered his head respectfully. If that is your wish, I will try. Serena studied him a moment longer before nodding. Good. You may go now. Tomorrow will bring more lessons. When James returned to his quarters, he felt both drained and restless. The Queen's requests had been unusual, but they revealed something important. She did not want simple service. She wanted understanding. She wanted connection. He sat by the window again, watching the moons rise over the glowing gardens. The palace seemed quieter than usual, as if it too was listening to the Queen's unspoken desires. James realized that his role here was far greater than caring for her daily needs. He was becoming part of something deeper, something no one had warned him about. As sleep came slowly, James wondered what new requests the Queen would make in the days ahead. Each one seemed stranger than the last, yet each one brought him closer to understanding her secret world. The palace was quiet that night. The twin moons of Zarethia hung high above, casting pale silver light across the crystal towers. Most of the attendants had retired to their quarters, and the great hall stood still, as if holding their breath. James had just returned to his room after a long day when he heard a soft knock on his door. Opening it carefully, he found Myra standing outside. Her usual calm expression carried something different this time: hesitation. The Queen requests your presence, Myra said in a low voice. She asks that you come alone. James felt his heart quicken. The Queen rarely called for him at night. He nodded, slipped on his cloak, and followed the dimly lit hallways. The palace seemed like a maze in the quiet hours, each step echoing louder than usual. He wondered what could be so important that Serena would summon him when the palace slept. When he entered the garden, he saw her waiting beneath a tree that glowed with faint blue light. The branches stretched high into the air, its leaves shimmering like glass. Serena stood at the base, her silver hair reflecting the moonlight, her gown flowing like liquid around her. You came, she said softly. James bowed his head. Of course, Your Majesty. How may I serve you? Not serve, she corrected gently. Tonight, you are not here as a caretaker. You are here as yourself. I wish to walk, and I wish for company. Nothing more. James hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Then I will walk with you. Together they strolled along the winding garden path. Strange flowers glowed faintly around them, and small winged creatures drifted in the air, their movements like sparks of light. For a while, they walked in silence, the sound of water fountains filling the air. At last, Serena spoke. You wonder why I ask you such unusual things. Stories, feelings, small details of your world. You wonder why I choose you for this when others could serve me more efficiently. James kept his eyes forward. Yes, I have wondered. But I thought it was not my place to ask. Serena gave a faint smile. That is wise. Still, I will tell you. For years I have ruled my people with strength and knowledge. I have been respected, even feared. But inside, I am alone. None of my attendants speak to me as you do. None of them look at me without fear or calculation. You do. James slowed his steps. Her words surprised him. I only try to be respectful, Your Majesty. Respect, yes, Serena said softly. But also honesty. When I ask you of your world, you do not answer with words meant to please me. You tell me truth. You speak of flowers, of children, of music. You give me pieces of something I have never known. James looked at her carefully. The Queen, who had seemed so distant and untouchable, now spoke with quiet vulnerability. He realized this was the side of her no one else was allowed to see. I only share what I know, he said gently. If that helps you, then I am glad. They reached a small pond where the water reflected the moons like polished glass. Serena paused and gazed into the surface. Do you know why I envy humans, James? He shook his head. You live with fragility, she explained. Your lives are short, your bodies weak compared to mine. Yet in that fragility, you find meaning. You find love, friendship, joy. My people are long-lived, powerful, and bound to duty. But we do not feel as you do. I have studied it all my life, yet I cannot touch it. That is why I chose you. That is my secret desire. Her voice trembled slightly at the last words, though her posture remained strong. James felt the weight of her confession. The mighty Queen Serena, ruler of a vast people, longed not for more power but for simple human connection. I think, James said carefully, that feelings cannot be commanded. They cannot be forced. They must be shared freely. Perhaps that is why they are so precious. Serena turned to him, her green eyes shining in the moonlight. Then share them with me, James. Teach me how to see the world through your kind. Show me what it means to feel. James's throat tightened. He was no scholar, no teacher of emotions. Yet he understood what she asked. He nodded slowly. I will try. I cannot promise more than that, but I will try. For a moment, Serena's expression softened into something almost human, something tender. That is enough, she said. They continued walking, and Serena asked him questions not about duty or history but about simple things. What did the air smell like in spring on Earth? What did it feel like to sit by a fire on a cold night? What was it like to laugh until tears came? James answered as best he could, describing sensations and memories that seemed ordinary to him but extraordinary to her. As the night deepened, they sat beneath the glowing tree once more. Serena looked up at the moons, her hands folded in her lap. I have shared my secret with you tonight, James. Few know the truth of my longing. You must keep it safe. You have my word, James replied firmly. The Queen gave a slow nod. Good. Then our path continues. In time, I hope you will give me not only words but experiences. Together, we may find what I have always sought. James bowed his head. I will walk that path with you, Your Majesty. The silence that followed was not heavy but gentle, filled with unspoken trust. James realized that something had changed between them. He was no longer just a caretaker following orders. He had become a confidant, someone the Queen relied on not for duty but for understanding. When Myra finally came to escort him back to his quarters, the night was nearly over. James lay awake for hours, replaying the Queen's words in his mind. He now understood the whispers of the palace staff, the mystery behind her unusual requests. Her secret desire was not power or control but the human gift of feeling. The days that followed the midnight walk were different for James. He felt a quiet shift in the way the Queen looked at him, as if their bond had deepened. She no longer treated him as just another attendant. Instead, she asked questions, listened to his answers, and sometimes even paused as though weighing his thoughts against her own. James understood that he had crossed into new ground. He was now more than a caretaker. He was someone the Queen trusted. But with trust came challenges. One morning, Myra came to his quarters earlier than usual. Her expression, calm as always, carried an edge of concern. The Queen requires your presence in the council chamber, she said. Be prepared. Today will not be routine. James followed her through the vast halls until they reached a tall set of crystal doors. The chamber beyond was unlike anything he had seen before. A long table stretched across the room, surrounded by alien advisors with sharp eyes and flowing robes. Maps of stars glowed in the air above the table, shifting and moving as the advisors argued in low voices. At the head of the chamber sat Queen Serena. Her gaze fell on James the moment he entered, and she lifted a hand to silence the advisors. James, she said, today you will help me in a matter beyond the palace walls. There are leaders from nearby cities who question my judgment. They believe humans are too fragile, too weak to have any role here. I wish for you to accompany me and show them otherwise. James felt his stomach tighten. Your Majesty, I am no diplomat. Serena's eyes narrowed slightly, though not in anger. That is exactly why you are perfect. You will not speak with the cunning of a politician. You will speak with honesty. That is what they cannot ignore. Before he could respond, Myra guided him to a seat beside the Queen. The advisors looked at him with skepticism, some even with disdain. James sat silently, unsure of what was expected. The discussions began. Alien leaders appeared through shimmering projections, their voices firm as they questioned Serena's decisions. They demanded more troops, more weapons, and stricter control of resources. They doubted her interest in human influence and spoke of James as though he were an object. Finally, one of them sneered. Why waste time with a fragile being? What value can a human bring to a throne of power? Serena's gaze turned to James. Answer them, she commanded softly. James froze for a heartbeat. His mind raced, but then he remembered the Queen's words: honesty. He stood, his voice steady though his heart pounded. I am fragile compared to you, yes. My kind cannot live as long, cannot fight as fiercely, cannot command armies of stars. but humans have something else. We survive not because we are the strongest, but because we hold together. We find meaning in small things, in bonds, in trust. That is why I am here. Not as a soldier, not as an advisor, but as a reminder that strength is not only measured in power. The chamber grew silent. The alien leaders stared at him, their expressions unreadable. Serena, however, leaned back with the faintest smile. You see, she said to the council, even the smallest voice can hold weight. This is why humanity matters. The session ended with tension still in the air, but James felt that he had passed some unseen trial. As they left the chamber, Serena walked beside him. You spoke with truth, she said. That is why they listened, even if they will not admit it. Today you proved more valuable than they expected. James bowed his head slightly. I only said what I believed. That, Serena replied, is exactly why it mattered. In the days that followed, Serena set him to more tasks that tested his loyalty. Once, she asked him to deliver a message to a group of guards in the far wing of the palace, but she gave no details of its contents. Another time, she sent him into the alien city with a small sealed box, telling him only to deliver it to a merchant without opening it. Each task felt strange, almost like a test. James never asked questions. He obeyed and returned. One evening, after another of these missions, Serena called him to her private chamber. The room was lit by soft blue flames, casting long shadows on the crystal walls. She stood by the window, looking out over the glowing gardens. You have done everything I asked, she said quietly. Tell me, James, did you never wonder what was in the messages or the box? James hesitated. Of course I wondered. But you trusted me to deliver them. That was enough. Serena turned toward him, her eyes bright with an emotion he could not quite name. Most would have given in to curiosity. Most would have opened the box or read the message. But you did not. That is why I trust you. James felt warmth in his chest. Your trust means everything to me, Your Majesty. For a long moment, neither spoke. The quiet hum of the palace filled the air. Then Serena stepped closer, her voice softer than he had ever heard it. You are loyal in ways I did not expect. But loyalty is not only shown in silence or obedience. It is also shown in truth. One day, I will ask you to give me truth, even if it is difficult. James met her gaze and nodded. When that day comes, I will give it. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, and she turned back to the window. Then perhaps I was right to bring you here. That night, as James returned to his quarters, he thought about the tests she had given him. Each one seemed small on the surface, yet each carried meaning. Serena was not only measuring his obedience. She was measuring his heart. The palace had grown familiar to James by now. He knew its endless halls, its glowing gardens, and its quiet chambers. Yet even with all he had seen, there was still something about Queen Serena that remained a mystery. Every word she spoke seemed to carry more meaning than it revealed, and every task she gave him seemed to test his loyalty in ways he had not expected. One evening, after a long day of assisting with council meetings and walking through the gardens, Serena called him to her private study. The room was smaller than her throne chamber, lined with shelves filled with glowing crystals instead of books. Each crystal pulsed softly, as if alive. Serena was seated near a tall window, her silver hair shining in the dim light. She looked up when James entered. Sit with me, she said gently. James obeyed, taking a chair across from her. He waited in silence, sensing that something important was coming. For a moment, Serena said nothing. Her eyes studied him as though searching for something hidden within. Finally, she spoke. "You have been loyal, James. You have obeyed without question. You have spoken truth when asked. And you have given me what I needed most, honesty without fear." James bowed his head slightly. "I only did what I thought was right, Your Majesty." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "And yet, what is right is not always easy. That is why I must tell you something now, something no one else knows. It is my secret desire." James felt his heart quicken. This was the moment the whispers in the palace had always hinted at, the moment he had been waiting for since his arrival. He leaned forward, listening closely. "I do not long for more power," Serena began. "I already rule a people who obey. I do not long for more knowledge, for I have studied the stars and the histories of worlds. What I long for is something my people cannot give me. Something they do not even understand." James asked softly, "What is it you long for, Your Majesty?" Her green eyes softened, and for the first time James saw a trace of vulnerability in them. "I long to feel as humans feel. To know friendship that is not bound by duty. To know loyalty that is not commanded but freely given. To share laughter, sorrow, and joy not as a ruler but as a being who simply exists. That is my hidden desire." James was silent, struck by the honesty of her words. He had expected many things, secrets of war, secrets of power, but not this. The mighty Queen of Zarethia, feared and respected across her world, longed not for control but for something as simple as companionship. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "you already have power, wisdom, and strength. But what you seek is not beyond you. Friendship and trust are given, not demanded. And you have earned mine." Serena's eyes brightened slightly. "You would call me a friend?" James hesitated only a moment before nodding. "Yes. Not only my queen, but also my friend." For a long time, Serena did not answer. She looked out the window where the twin moons rose above the gardens. Then she turned back to him, and a rare softness touched her voice. "Then you have given me something greater than all the treasures of this palace. You have given me a gift my people cannot create." James felt a quiet warmth in his chest. He realized that this bond between them was no longer about duty or orders. It was about trust, about the connection between two very different beings who had found common ground. The days that followed grew lighter, almost warmer, though the palace remained as grand and formal as ever. Serena would still attend her councils, still give commands, still rule her people with grace. But when James was near, she let small changes slip through. Sometimes she would ask him to tell a human joke, though she rarely understood them fully. Sometimes she would pause in the gardens just to sit with him in silence. And sometimes, when no one else was watching, she would smile, not the careful smile of a ruler, but the unguarded smile of someone discovering joy. The attendants began to notice. They whispered more than before, their eyes following James as he passed. Some with curiosity, some with suspicion. Myra, though calm as always, gave him subtle looks of warning, as if reminding him to be careful. But James knew that his role had changed. He was no longer just the caretaker of the Queen's body. He was the keeper of her secret heart. One night, Serena asked him to walk with her once more in the gardens. The air was cool, the flowers glowed softly, and the fountains sang with their flowing water. They walked slowly, side by side, as if there was no hurry. "I have told you my hidden desire," Serena said quietly. Now I must ask you something. Will you stay, James? Will you remain here, not only as my caretaker, but as the companion I seek? James felt the weight of her question. He thought of Earth, of the fields and skies he had left behind. He thought of the people he once knew. Yet as he looked at Serena, standing tall and graceful beside him, he realized that his place was here now. I will stay, he said with certainty. As long as you need me, I will stay. Serena's expression softened into something close to relief. Then I am no longer alone. For the first time, James felt that he had found a purpose greater than himself. He was not simply a worker in a strange palace. He was a bridge between two worlds, a human who had been trusted with the heart of an alien queen. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over the gardens, James understood that his journey was far from over. The queen's desires were no longer a secret to him, and his promise to her would shape the days to come. And somewhere deep inside, he felt proud. Humanity had given him nothing extraordinary, no great strength, no long life, no power. Yet it was enough. Because what Serena sought was not power at all. What she sought was what made humans truly human. The days passed more peacefully after James gave his promise to stay. Queen Serena carried herself with the same dignity and authority as before, but her steps seemed lighter. The advisors still gathered in the council chamber, the guards still patrolled the crystal halls, and the twin moons still rose each night over the glowing gardens. Yet for James, everything felt different. He was no longer an outsider. He was a part of something larger, bound by loyalty and trust. But peace never lasted long in a palace of power. One morning, James awoke to the sound of urgent voices outside his quarters. He dressed quickly and followed the noise to the main hall. Myra stood waiting, her face calm but her eyes sharp. "The Queen requires you," she said. "There has been unrest beyond the city walls." James hurried with her to the council chamber. Inside, Serena sat tall at the head of the table, her advisors surrounding her in tense debate. Floating above the table was a map of the outer regions of her kingdom. Dots of red light pulsed along its edges. "They refuse to obey the new decree," one advisor declared. "They claim your rule is too soft, that your attention to humans is a weakness." Another added, "If you do not act with strength, Your Majesty, they will rise against you." Serena's gaze was steady, but James saw the weight behind her eyes. "If I strike with force, I prove them right. They say I care nothing for peace. Yet if I do nothing, they will spread their doubt further." Her words silenced the room. Then slowly, her eyes turned toward James. "What would you do, if this were your people?" James swallowed. He was no ruler, no general. But Serena had asked, and he could not give less than the truth. "I would speak to them," he said. "Not as a queen above her people, but as someone who wishes to understand. If they believe you are distant, show them you are not. Show them you care for their voices, even if you do not agree with their anger." The advisors shifted uncomfortably. One scoffed. "You would risk her life among rebels." James met Serena's eyes. "If they see her only through soldiers and walls, they will never trust her. But if they see her face, hear her voice, they may remember why they once believed." The chamber fell into silence again. Finally, Serena nodded. "Prepare the transport. I will go." The journey to the outer city was tense. Guards surrounded the queen, their eyes sharp for any sign of threat. James rode close by her side, his heart heavy with worry. The outer city was not like the palace. Its streets were crowded, its people worn from work and burden. Many looked at the queen with suspicion, some with open anger. When they reached the central square, Serena stood tall before the gathered crowd. Her voice rang clear. "I have heard your anger. I have heard your doubts. You believe I have grown weak, that I care for others more than my own people. But I tell you, the strength is not only the power to command, it is the courage to listen." The crowd murmured, restless. Some shouted their protests. One man called out, "Why do you keep a human at your side if not to betray us?" Serena raised a hand for silence. "This human has shown me truths even my counsel could not. He has shown me that loyalty given freely is stronger than loyalty taken by fear. If you call him a weakness, then you misunderstand. He is my reminder of what true strength means." The square grew still. James felt the eyes of hundreds upon him, some filled with doubt, some with curiosity. He stepped forward, his voice steady. "I am not here to take anything from you. I am here because your queen trusts me, and because I trust her. She could command armies, she could silence voices, but she chooses another path. That is not weakness. That is wisdom." For a long moment, the crowd was quiet. Then, slowly, a few heads bowed. Others followed. The anger did not vanish completely, but it lessened, replaced by thought. The queen had been heard. As the transport carried them back to the palace, Serena looked at James with calm pride. "You have done more today than any army could. You have shown them a different kind of strength." James shook his head. "I only spoke the truth." "That," Serena said softly, "is why it mattered." In the weeks that followed, the unrest quieted. The outer cities did not fully trust, but they no longer rose in anger. Serena's choice to appear before them had planted a seed of respect. And James knew that he had played his part in that choice. One night, Serena called him again to the gardens. The twin moons shone above, silver light bathing the flowers. She stood among the glowing vines, her hands folded gently. "When I first brought you here," she said, "you were a caretaker. Then, you became my voice when I needed truth. Then, my friend when I revealed my hidden desire. Now, you are something greater still." James tilted his head. "What am I now, Your Majesty?" She met his eyes, her voice calm but full of meaning. "You are the promise of what our worlds can be together. Not divided, not mistrustful, but united by what we share. You are my bridge to humanity, and perhaps, my bridge to a future my people cannot yet see." James felt his chest tighten with quiet pride. "If I can be that bridge, then my life here has meaning." Serena stepped closer, her gaze steady. "You already are. And as long as you remain, I am no longer alone." The garden was silent except for the soft hum of the fountains. James stood beside her, the weight of the stars above them, and felt a peace unlike any he had known. He understood now that his journey was not about survival, nor about duty. It was about the bond between two beings from different worlds who had chosen trust over fear, and honesty over silence. He had been hired as a caretaker. But he had become far more. He had become the human who held the heart of an alien queen, the one who reminded her that even among the stars, the greatest strength was found not in power, but in connection.